She was declared dead after a tragic accident, but the humble maid who once saved a billionaire with a kiss has returned from the grave. In this breathtaking sequel, the wicked wife responsible for the crash has weaseled her way back, plotting his final downfall at his own wife's memorial service. But when a mysterious server rushes forward to kiss him again, a public explosion reveals a truth more shocking than anyone could imagine. To witness the incredible moment a lost love returns, a secret son is revealed, and justice is finally served, watch until the very end. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories of love, betrayal, and stunning revenge.
Ella stood on the stage, her hand resting gently on her growing belly. Before her, a large crowd had gathered for the opening of her foundation. She smiled, her heart full. She still couldn't believe this was her life. "Everyone deserves a chance," she told the crowd, her voice clear and kind. "No one's future should be limited by their circumstances." The people cheered. Her eyes found her husband, Emecha, in the front row. His face was now soft with pride and love. He gave her a small, encouraging nod. Later, at the Obiagu mansion, the atmosphere was warm and lively. Ella sometimes had to pinch herself. This beautiful, spacious house was now her home. The servants, who used to move in fear, now greeted her with genuine smiles. "Good afternoon, Ma," the head housekeeper would say, her eyes crinkling with warmth. "I made your favorite pepper soup just the way you like it." "Thank you so much, Mama Ngozi," Ella would reply, often sitting with the staff to share a meal. She remembered what it was like to be invisible. She made sure everyone in her home felt seen and valued. Kindness, not fear, now ruled the mansion. Her family was thriving. Her parents, once frail and sick, were now healthy. They lived in a comfortable cottage on the property. Her brother, Chidi, was happily studying at the university, gaining experience with a part-time job at her foundation. Their struggles felt like a distant, bad dream. Meanwhile, across the city, the heavy iron gates of the prison clanged open. Amma and Deji stepped out, blinking in the harsh sunlight. They were free. Amma's parents embraced their daughter. "Please, let this be the end of it," her mother pleaded. "Start a new life, my child." But as their car moved through the busy streets, Amma's eyes locked onto a massive billboard. It featured a radiant picture of Ella, with the words, "Ella Obiagu, Changing Lives," written boldly below. A bitter, hot jealousy twisted inside Amma. She saw the public adoration, the wealth, the life of comfort, everything she had ever wanted, being enjoyed by the woman she had once hired as a maid. Deji let out a low, mocking laugh from the seat beside her. "Just look at that," he sneered. "The cleaner is now the queen." Amma said nothing. She just kept staring, a cold, hard plan beginning to form in her heart. Her freedom was not a gift, it was an opportunity, and she knew exactly what she had to do. She would take back the life she felt was rightfully hers. Amma and Deji sat in a cheap, dark room. Their only light came from a small television. On the screen was a news report about Ella's charity. The video showed Ella, glowing with happiness, cutting a ribbon while Emecha watched her with a proud smile. The reporter called her a beacon of hope. Amma turned off the TV with a sharp click. The room fell into an angry silence. "I can't stand it," she hissed. Her hands clenched into fists. "Look at her. She has my husband, my house, my life. She's even using my name." Every mention of Mrs. Obiagu felt like a personal insult. Deji nodded, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous light. "She took everything that was supposed to be yours. The money, the power, all of it." "It's not just about Emecha anymore," Amma said, pacing the small room. "I want her life. I want people to cheer for me like that. I want to be the one in that big house, loved by everyone." Her jealousy was a fire, burning out of control. They started to plan. At first, they thought about just scaring Ella or ruining her reputation. But Amma's hatred was too deep. "No," she said, her voice cold and final. "She needs to disappear, for good. Then when Emecha is heartbroken and alone, I will be there to comfort him. I will slowly become everything he needs. I will step right into her place." Deji, who had no morals left to break, agreed. "An accident," he suggested, "something that no one will question." They decided on a car accident. They began to study Ella's routine. They learned she often traveled to a nearby village. The road there was narrow, winding, and dangerous, with a steep cliff on one side. "It's perfect," Deji said, pointing at a map. "We can force her car off the road there. The car will fall and explode. No one will survive a crash like that. Everyone will think it was just a terrible tragedy." Amma smiled for the first time in days. It was a cruel, cold smile. In her mind, she could already see it. The news reports mourning Ella's death, Emecha's tears, and then her own gentle, comforting presence, ready to take over. The plan was set. They would use a stolen, untraceable truck to run Ella's car off the deadly cliff. It would be the end of Ella Obiagu and the beginning of Amma's.
Ella was driving home from the village, feeling happy after a day of helping others. Seeing a young pregnant woman walking by the roadside, she had kindly offered her a ride. The sun was setting, making the sky look beautiful. But the narrow, winding road was growing dark and dangerous. Suddenly, on a sharp curve with a steep cliff beside it, a large, dirty truck swerved in front of her, moving too fast. Ella gripped the steering wheel tightly, her heart pounding with fear. "What is this driver doing?" she whispered nervously. Without any warning, the truck slammed its brakes, then violently swerved, smashing into the side of her car. The impact was terrifying. Ella screamed as her car spun out of control, crashing through the weak roadside barrier, rolling down the steep cliff. Down below, a fisherman named Gabriel was fixing his nets. He heard the horrible sound of crushing metal and a loud explosion. When he looked up, he saw a car engulfed in flames at the bottom of the cliff. Gabriel didn't hesitate. He ran toward the burning wreck as fast as he could. The fire was hot and dangerous, but he bravely pushed forward. He saw a woman inside, unconscious, leaning over the steering wheel. It was Ella. With all his strength, Gabriel forced the damaged door open. He quickly unbuckled her seatbelt and pulled her out, dragging her to a safe distance just as the car's fuel tank caught fire. Boom! The car exploded into a massive ball of fire, scattering burning pieces everywhere. Gabriel protected Ella with his own body. When he looked back, the car was completely destroyed. Seeing that the lonely road showed no sign of help, Gabriel knew he had to act. He carefully carried the unconscious woman to his small hut nearby. His wife Tenny gasped when she saw them. Together, they cleaned Ella's wounds and nursed her as best they could. They were a poor couple with no television and little money, so they couldn't afford to take her to a hospital. They hoped she would wake up soon and tell them who she was and where she belonged. Meanwhile, police and firefighters arrived at the crash site. They put out the fire and discovered the remains of the poor pregnant woman in the passenger seat. Since Ella's handbag and personal items were found in the car, they concluded that the body was hers. That evening, the heartbreaking news spread everywhere. Breaking news: philanthropist Ella Obiagu dies in a tragic accident. The report stated there were no survivors. In Gabriel's humble hut, far from the news and the world, Ella lay sleeping, unaware that everyone believed she was dead. Gabriel and his wife watched over her, two kind strangers caring for a lost woman, a woman who had no memory of the life she left behind.
The Grand Obiagu Mansion, once filled with laughter and light, was now silent and dark. Emecha sat alone in the living room, his head in his hands. His eyes were red from crying. The news of Ella's death had shattered his world. He had not only lost his beloved wife, but also the child they were expecting. He felt a pain deeper than any he had ever known. Just days after the tragic news, Amma arrived at the mansion. She was dressed in simple, dark clothes. Her face wore a mask of sadness and concern. "Emecha," she said softly, her voice dripping with a carefully practiced sympathy, "I am so sorry for your loss. I know I have no right to be here, but I couldn't stay away knowing the pain you must be in." At first, Emecha was cold. "Leave, Amma. I have nothing to say to you." But Amma was a master of persistence. She did not push too hard that first day. She simply left a homemade dish of his favorite childhood meal, a subtle ploy to evoke nostalgia and comfort. The next day, she returned, not to his study, but to the garden, where she quietly arranged for the wilting flowers to be replaced with fresh white lilies, a symbol of purity and renewal. She made her presence felt not as an intrusion, but as a gentle, improving force. She played her part perfectly. She never spoke badly of Ella. Instead, she would say things like, "She was such a good woman, so generous. The staff adored her." Each word was chosen to align herself with his grief, to position herself as someone who honored Ella's memory. Slowly, in his deep sorrow and loneliness, Emecha began to accept her presence. He was too heartbroken to see her true intentions. Her false kindness felt like a small comfort, a raft in his ocean of grief. Amma was clever. She graduated from small gestures to indispensable tasks. She started intercepting the overwhelming flood of condolence calls, shielding him with a gentle, "He is resting now." She began organizing Ella's personal effects, presenting it as a way to preserve her legacy. She would ensure a plate of food was always beside him, saying softly, "You need your strength, Emecha, for the days ahead." Each action was a thread, quietly weaving her back into the fabric of his daily life. But inside, Amma was smiling. She saw his weakness and knew her plan was working with perfect precision. The vulture was no longer just circling. She had landed and was patiently, methodically making the carcass of his old life her own, waiting for the moment he would be too dependent to ever ask her to leave.
In Gabriel's small, simple hut by the river, a miracle happened. Ella, still without any memory of her past life, gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The moment she held him, a powerful, instinctive love surged through her. She didn't know her own name, but she knew she was his mother. She named him Chimdi, meaning God is with me. Life was hard. Gabriel and his wife, Tenny, were poor. There was little money for fancy baby things or doctor visits. Ella helped Tenny with cooking and washing clothes in the river. Gabriel shared his small catch of fish with them. They were a small, struggling family, bound together by kindness. Despite the hardship, the hut was filled with love. Ella would sing to Chimdi, her heart full even if her mind was empty. She often wondered about her past, but caring for her son gave her a purpose. Meanwhile, back at the Obiagu mansion, Amma was carefully building her new role. She had made herself indispensable. She managed the household staff, handled Emecha's correspondence, ensured he ate. She was always there, a picture of quiet support and efficiency. Emecha was impressed by her change. "Thank you, Amma," he would say, his voice heavy with grief. "I don't know what I would do without your help right now." He was a shadow of his former self. He rarely went to work, spending most days in Ella's old garden, consumed by loss. Amma was his only constant visitor, bringing him tea and a listening ear. Yet for all her efforts, a wall remained. Emecha never let her get too close. He would talk about Ella, his love for her evident in every word. He did not give Amma access to his heart. He saw her as a helpful friend, but never as a replacement for his wife. Amma, however, was confident. "He just needs more time," she told Deju during a secret meeting. "He is still grieving, but I am here every day. I am the one comforting him. Soon he will be so used to me, he will forget her. His heart will open." Deju, lurking in the shadows, was pleased. "Good. Our plan is working perfectly. Everyone believes his wife is dead. The billionaire is broken. And you are right there to pick up the pieces." They smiled, thinking their victory was near. They were happy, already planning the second phase, gaining control of Emecha's finances once his guard was down. They didn't know that far away in a humble hut, the woman they thought was dead was holding their greatest threat, a son who was the living proof of Emecha's real, enduring love.
A year had passed, and the pain in Emecha's heart remained as fresh as ever. He decided to hold a grand memorial service to honor Ella's life and legacy. Her picture was everywhere, on television, in newspapers, and on billboards with the words celebrating the life of Ella Obiagu. One afternoon, Gabriel went to the small local market to sell his fish. The market was bustling. As he walked past a small electronics repair shop, his eyes were drawn to a row of televisions playing in the window. Every screen showed the same image, a beautiful, smiling woman. Beneath her picture was a name he knew from the items in her purse: Ella Obiagu. The shop owner was watching a news report about the upcoming memorial. "Such a tragedy," the man clucked to his friend. "The billionaire's wife died in a car crash a year ago today." Gabriel's heart jumped. He pushed his way through the crowd and stared at the screen. There was no mistake. The woman on television was the woman now living in his hut. He dropped his basket of fish and ran all the way home, his old legs carrying him as fast as they could. He burst into the hut, breathless. "My daughter, come quickly," he urged a confused Ella. He described what he had seen, but she just looked puzzled. Thinking quickly, Gabriel led her and little Chimdi back to the market. He pointed a trembling finger at the television screen. "There, that is you," he said. Ella looked up. She saw her own face. Then the camera shifted to a man standing somberly beside her portrait. It was Emecha. His face was filled with a grief so profound it seemed to reach through the screen and touch her. The moment she saw his face, it was like a dam breaking in her mind. A powerful, overwhelming flood of memories rushed back to her. The splash of muddy water, his kind apology, their wedding day, his laughter, Amma's cruel plot, the day she kissed him as a maid to save his life, the screeching tires, the terrifying crash. She remembered everything. "Emecha," she whispered, her voice trembling as tears filled her eyes. She looked down at her son, then back at the screen. That's his father. We have to find him." Holding her son tightly, Ella knew she had to reach her family. But she was afraid. How could she just appear after a year? How could she announce she was alive? With Gabriel's help, they found a small phone booth in the market. With a trembling hand, she dialed her brother Chidi's number, a number that had miraculously surfaced from her returning memories. "Hello," Chidi's voice answered, sounding tired and sad. "Chidi, it's me," Ella whispered, her voice choked with emotion. There was a long, stunned silence on the other end. Then a shattered, disbelieving cry. "Ella? Is this a cruel joke? My sister is gone." "It's really me, Chidi. I'm alive. I was in an accident. I lost my memory. A kind man, Gabriel, saved me. I just remembered everything today." Chidi was overwhelmed, sobbing with a mixture of shock and pure joy. He explained how their parents had been utterly devastated, their joy in life gone. "But Emecha," Chidi assured her, "he has never neglected them. He checks on them every week. He is a broken man, but he has been good to us." Then his voice grew dark. "But Ella, there is a problem. Amma is back. She has been circling Emecha since your accident. She plays the part of a changed woman, always there to comfort him." A cold dread washed over Ella. The memory of Amma's plot to kill Emecha was vivid and terrifying. Her? Comforting him? Chidi, this cannot be a coincidence. She tried to kill him once. Why would she suddenly be so kind? A heavy suspicion settled in her heart. She couldn't reveal herself yet, not without knowing what Amma was planning. "Chidi, I need you to do something for me," Ella said, her voice firm with newfound determination. "Go to Emecha's house. Tell him you came to offer your condolences again. But I need you to watch Amma. Listen to her. Find out what she is really doing there. I need to know if she has a hand in why everyone thinks I'm dead, before I can come home." Chidi, his loyalty to his sister absolute, agreed without hesitation. "I will go right away. We will get to the bottom of this, sister, I promise." Hanging up the phone, Ella held her son close. She was so close to her family, so close to her husband, but the shadow of Amma stood between them, and Ella would not rest until she knew the truth.
Ella's brother arrived at the imposing Obiagu mansion, a place that once felt like a second home, but now seemed draped in a shadow of grief and deception. He was welcomed by Emecha, who looked thinner, his eyes holding a deep, permanent sadness. They sat in the grand living room, and Chidi expressed his family's shared sorrow. "It is a beautiful thing you are doing for her, Emecha," Chidi said sincerely. "She deserved so much more," Emecha replied, his voice heavy. "This is the least I can do." As they spoke, Amma glided into the room, dressed in somber, expensive clothes. "Chidi," she said, offering a perfectly practiced look of sympathy, "how good of you to come. We are all just trying to be strong for Emecha." Her performance was flawless, but Chidi saw the cold calculation in her eyes. After a few more minutes of strained pleasantries, Amma excused herself. She said, "Please forgive me. I have some calls to make regarding the memorial arrangements." And with that, she slipped out of the room. Needing a moment to process, Chidi also excused himself shortly after, walking down the mansion's long, quiet hallway. He noticed the door to Emecha's private study was slightly ajar. From within, he heard a low, urgent whisper. It was Amma's voice. He froze, pressing himself against the wall, his heart hammering against his ribs. "The timing is perfect," Amma was hissing into her phone. "He will be at his most vulnerable, standing there, talking about her. The whole world will be watching him mourn." There was a pause as she listened. "Don't worry about the microphone," she continued. "Deji has it all ready. It will look like a terrible accident, a faulty wire, a tragic electrical fault. One touch, and he's gone. No more grieving billionaire. Then everything he owns will naturally fall to me." Chidi felt a cold terror seize him. This was far worse than he had imagined. It was cold-blooded murder, planned for the most public and poignant moment possible. He heard Amma's final venomous words. A year of playing the humble servant is finally going to pay off. That life will be mine." Chidi didn't dare breathe. He waited until he heard her footsteps moving away. Then he fled. He rushed back to the living room, his mind reeling. "Emecha, I have to go," he stammered. "A family emergency." Before Emecha could ask questions, Chidi was out the door, running down the driveway. He didn't stop running until he found a taxi. The entire ride back, his body trembled, with a mixture of fear and rage. He burst into Gabriel's hut, his chest heaving. "Ella, they're not just after his money. They're going to kill him. At your memorial." He collapsed into a chair, trying to catch his breath. He recounted every horrifying detail: the tampered microphone, the planned electrocution, Amma's cold satisfaction. Ella stood up, her son in her arms. The confusion and fear on her face melted away, replaced by a steely resolve. The memory of the car crash, the loss of her first year with her child, the pain her family had endured, it all crystallized into one clear purpose: Amma had to be stopped.
The air in Gabriel's small hut was thick with tension. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the soft cooing of baby Chimdi. "We must go to the police," Chidi finally exclaimed, his voice shaking with urgency. "No," Ella said, her voice surprisingly calm but firm. She held her son close, as if drawing strength from him. "We have no proof. It's my word against hers, and everyone believes I am dead. If we go to the police, it will take too long. By the time they listen, it will be too late. Emecha will be—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Gabriel, who had been quietly listening, nodded his wise old head. "She is right. The snake is in the house. You must go yourself to chase it out." "But how?" Chidi asked, wringing his hands. "You can't just walk in. The shock alone. And we don't know what Amma is capable of." A determined look settled on Ella's face. She looked at the simple clothes she had worn for the past year. An idea began to form. "I won't walk in as Ella Obiagu," she said. "I will walk in as someone invisible." She turned to her brother. "Chidi, you know the event planners for the memorial. You can get me a server's uniform and a pass, can't you?" Chidi's eyes widened. Then he nodded slowly. Yes, I can. I know the catering manager. I can tell him I found a hard-working woman from the village." The plan was set. It was risky, but it was their only chance. The next day, Chidi returned with a server's uniform and a staff pass. With trembling hands, Ella changed into the uniform. She looked at herself in the small, cracked mirror. The woman staring back was both familiar and a stranger. Then she turned to Gabriel and his wife Tanny. Her voice softened, filled with emotion. She gently handed her sleeping son to Tanny. "Please," she whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. "You have been his protectors for so long. Just a little longer. I will come back for him. I promise." Tanny took the baby, cradling him lovingly. "Do not worry our daughter. He is our joy. We will protect him with our lives. Now go. Save your husband." Ella gave her son one last long look, imprinting his face on her heart. Then she turned to Chidi, her expression hardening with resolve. She pulled a simple scarf over her head, partly hiding her face. "I am ready," she said. Together they left the hut. Ella was not going to her own memorial to mourn. She was going to war, disguised as a ghost, to save the man she loved from a wolf in sheep's clothing.
The grand hall was filled with a quiet, sad silence. Hundreds of people had come to remember Ella Obiagu. Large pictures of her smiling face were placed everywhere, surrounded by beautiful white flowers. At the front of the room, Emecha stood, his shoulders heavy with grief. By his side, like a shadow, stood Amma, her face a perfect mask of shared sorrow.
From the edge of the crowd, Ella watched, disguised in her server's uniform. Her heart ached, seeing Emecha so broken. She also saw the way Amma hovered near him, and it made her feel sick. Her eyes kept darting towards the podium where Emecha would soon give his speech. The microphone stood there looking innocent, but she knew it was a deadly trap. The event host stepped forward. "And now," he announced, "Emecha Obiagu would like to share a few words." A soft, sympathetic applause filled the room. Amma gave Emecha a gentle push towards the stage. Ella's breath caught in her throat. This was it. Emecha walked slowly to the podium. He looked out at the crowd, his eyes filled with tears. He took a deep, shaky breath. His hand hovered just inches from the deadly device. In that split second, Ella didn't think. She acted. She threw her tray of glasses onto the floor. The sound of shattering crystal shocked the entire hall. Every head turned towards the noise. Before anyone could react, she ran. She pushed past startled guests, her eyes locked on Emecha. He turned, confusion and annoyance on his face. "What is the meaning of this?" he began to demand. But Ella didn't stop. She lunged forward the last few steps. Just as his fingers were about to close around the microphone, she grabbed his face with both hands and kissed him. It was a desperate, reckless kiss, filled with a year of lost time, overwhelming love, and sheer terror. She pulled him backwards, away from the podium, away from the danger. The crowd gasped in unison, the silence shattered by shocked whispers. Emecha was frozen for a second, utterly stunned. Then fury erupted within him. He roughly pushed her away, his face a storm of anger and humiliation. "How dare you?" he thundered. "Who are you? Security!" Chaos erupted. Amma was the first to scream, "Get this mad woman away from him!" But Ella stood her ground, chest heaving, her eyes never leaving Emecha's. The kiss had been a crazy, reckless act, but it had worked. He was safe. Now she had to make him see. She had to make him understand that the woman he thought was dead was standing right in front of him. The billionaire's face was masked with anger and confusion as he stared at the woman who had kissed him. But as he looked into her eyes, eyes filled with a familiar love and desperate fear, his anger began to waver. Something was terribly wrong. As the guards got closer, Ella knew it was now or never. She slowly reached up and untied the scarf from her head, letting it fall to the floor. Then she stood up straight, no longer trying to hide, and looked directly at Emecha. "Emecha," she said, her voice clear and strong. "It's me." A gasp swept through the room. People recognized her face from the large portraits. It was the same face, but alive, standing right before them. Emecha took a stumbling step back, his hand flying to his chest as if he'd been shot. His eyes widened in pure, uncomprehending shock. "Ella," he whispered, the name a prayer and a question. "No, it can't be." "It is me," she repeated, her voice breaking with emotion. Then she turned and pointed a steady finger at Amma, whose face had gone pale with horror. "And she tried to kill me," she said. "She forced my car off the road a year ago. And now she has come back to finish what she started and kill you." The crowd erupted into louder shouts and exclamations. All eyes turned to Amma. Amma's perfectly crafted mask shattered. The shock of seeing the woman she had left for dead was too much. Her mind snapped. "Liar!" she screamed, her voice a shrill, unhinged shriek that silenced everyone. She was pointing a trembling finger at Ella, her body shaking with rage. "You are a liar! You died in that car! I saw it! I saw it burn! You were supposed to be dead!" A dead silence fell over the hall. Amma's own words hung in the air, a perfect, damning confession. She realized her mistake too late, her hands flying to her mouth. But the truth was already out. She had just admitted she knew about the crash, that she had been there, and that she had believed Ella was dead. Emecha stared from his wife, alive and returned to him, to the woman who had just confessed to her murder. The world he knew had been turned upside down in a single, breathtaking moment. Then all hell broke loose. Emecha, his face a storm of fury and betrayal, pointed at Amma. His voice was a low, thunderous command. "Arrest her, now!" The security guard swiftly seized Amma. She fought like a wild animal, screaming and scratching, her elegant facade completely gone. "Let me go! She's a ghost! She's not real!" she shrieked. From the back of the crowd, Chidi signaled to a plainclothes officer. They apprehended Deji, who had been lurking near the electrical controls. The evidence was overwhelming, but Emecha was no longer looking at them. His entire world narrowed to the woman before him. The anger drained from his face, replaced by a dawning, overwhelming awe. "Ella!" he whispered again, as if saying her name would make her disappear. Tears finally streamed down Ella's face. "It's me, Emecha. I'm here." He stumbled forward, his hands reaching out to touch her face, her shoulders, as if to make sure she was real. A sob escaped him, a sound of pure relief and joy. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly, as if trying to pull her back into his very soul. He buried his face in her hair, his body shaking. A year of grief and loneliness poured out of him. "You're alive," he choked out over and over again. "You're really alive." The crowd watched, many in tears themselves, as the memorial transformed into a miraculous reunion. The truth was out, the villains were captured, and in the middle of it all, a love the death itself could not erase was finally, joyfully reunited.
Later that day, the heavy silence of the Obiagu mansion was gone, replaced by a joy so profound it seemed to fill every room with light. Ella's parents had been rushed over. The moment they saw their daughter, their cries of disbelief turned into tearful, laughing embraces. The family, once shattered by grief, was whole again. But the greatest surprise was yet to come. Ella, holding Emecha's hand, led him into the living room, where Gabriel and his wife Tenny waited nervously. In Tenny's arms was a sleeping baby boy. "Emecha," Ella said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "There is someone very important I want you to meet." She gently took the baby from Tenny and cradled him. Then she turned to her husband. "This is your son. I named him Chimdi." Emecha's breath caught in his throat. He looked from his wife's face to the peaceful face of the child. He, a man who commanded boardrooms, was suddenly trembling. He reached out a hesitant finger and gently touched his son's tiny hand. The baby stirred, his small fingers curling instinctively around his father's. A wave of emotion overwhelmed Emecha. Tears he had held back for a year finally fell freely. Tears of pure, unblemished joy. He carefully gathered both his wife and his son into his arms, holding the family he never knew he had. He kissed Ella's forehead, then his son's, whispering promises of love and protection. Once the tears had subsided, Emecha turned to Gabriel and Tenny. He took the old fisherman's calloused hands in his own. Emecha said, "You saved my family," his voice filled with a gratitude that words could barely contain. "You saved my wife. You protected my son. I can never repay you." True to his word, he ensured they would never want for anything again. He had a beautiful, modern house built for them, not far from the river Gabriel loved. He bought him a new, state-of-the-art fishing boat, so his work would be easier and more prosperous. Most importantly, he told them their place in the Obiagu family was forever secure. In the weeks that followed, the mansion was transformed.
The sound of baby Chimdi's happy gurgles and coos echoed through the halls. Ella's kindness once again warmed every corner. The staff served the family with renewed love and loyalty. Laughter returned, deeper and more precious than before. After a long, dark year, the light had not only returned to the Obiagu mansion, it had multiplied, shining brighter than ever with the promise of a beautiful, joyful future together.